Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is once again Celestial Seat 888, and today we will be once again using the Mermaid Tarot deck. Now, before we begin, I'd like to thank anybody who has already liked, shared, subscribed to my channel. It's definitely great to see the numbers going up. However, we still have to up the ante a little bit more, so hit that notification button. Please comment, let me know how the readings are going for you, what aspects of the readings have applied to your life, what aspects haven't. I'd love to hear from you guys. Now, without further ado, let us begin. All right, Pisces, these are your cards, and this is your general reading for the third week of September. That is September 18th through September 24th, 2022. Now, first impressions that I'm getting for you, Pisces, this week particularly is you guys might be in your heads a little bit, in I want to say in your own fantasy world, just a little bit more than you should be, because the first card you have for this week is the Knight of Cups, and the Knight of Cups is definitely that card where the knight is just looking into their own fantasy world, constructing how their fantasy of how they want things to be is, and I feel as if for you, Pisces, you guys are kind of in that right now. For whatever reason you might be doing this, it might be just to cope, it might just be something that you do every once in a while. But I want to say for this card to come out, it's kind of a little bit of a warning to just not fully put yourself in that mindset too much, because you also have the Five of Swords as your next card. And the Five of Swords, I want to say, it brings to it some kind of pain, cut or bruise. And I want to say for you, Pisces people, for this week, it might be that you're just a little bit too into your own heads right now, to the point where you're kind of, so hyper focused on it that you're kind of causing issues in your own real world reality, which might actually cause you to go further deep into your own little fantasy world. Because I want to say for you, Pisces, this week you kind of want to rewrite your own stories, because you have the Six of Cups, and the Six of Cups is definitely has that energy of just wanting to rewrite your own story. Maybe maybe you're thinking about your childhood in some sense, and the way your life is right now, you wanted it the way you wanted it as a child doesn't necessarily reflect it. So you guys are just well, how do I fix my reality into fitting what I wanted as a child, but that's, I mean, how do I put this nicely? It's not always going to be, it's not gonna be like that, because as children we're very naive to how the world works. We're very innocent in that sense, and maybe you might have the career that you decided when you were 5 years old right now, but you're the way the job actually works is going to be completely different than how you thought it was when you were a child. That let's just be clear about this, because again, you guys are kind of just trapped in your past mindset. You guys have the Devil card too, Pisces. You guys are trapped in your past mindset of how things should be, instead of facing the reality of how things are. Now, no matter what, the door is always open to get out of this trap, to come back to the real world. It's not that I'm trying to say that a little bit of fantasy, especially in times like these, isn't necessarily good. It's just don't rely on it to the point where you're not facing what your true reality is. If it's gonna end up causing arguments with people, if it's gonna cause cuts and bruises in some way, then it's definitely worth it to just set down this fantasy aside and come back to reality. Get out of this trap, Pisces, because I want to say again, with this whole rewriting everything, you have all the materials that you need for that, Pisces. You have the Six of Swords, so you guys can get out of this and start anew and come back to a big wind again, but you gotta get focused back up, because again, your last card right here is the Emperor. And the Emperor, when it comes to his domain, when it comes to his kingdom, he's very focused on the present. He's not off in la la land. And I feel as if for you Pisces, you're being asked to get back into that energy space of, focusing your energy, focusing your priorities on like how to better your reality, like in the real world, versus, like keeping the focus on a fantasy world. Because again, fantasy can be very good. I'm not saying the Knight of Cups isn't a good thing to have every once in a while, Pisces, but you should also be doing things so that those, whatever it is that you're putting into your fantasy can come into reality. Let's say you want to be a lawyer and you're just only fantasizing about being a lawyer. This is just an example, Pisces. You also have to like apply for like criminal justice, law, whatever you have to study, so that you can actually, take the steps to becoming a lawyer. It's not just all about just the fantasizing about it. It's also the doing something about it with this Emperor card here. So that's what I feel that you need to do, Pisces, is just not only focus on the fantasy of things, but actually take steps to do the things that you want to do. Because I definitely feel that you guys can do it with the Six of Swords. You're definitely going to have a small win or a small victory in the right direction, just as soon as you just like kind of come out of this fantasy world that you're kind of in this week, Pisces. All right, Pisces, that is your general reading for the week. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know how the reading is for you guys, what resonates, what doesn't resonate, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.